Welcome to the show, Hazel.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So, my favorite question to start off with is what is your sober date?
Oh, goodness. My sober date just restarted 58 days ago. So it is, I don't even remember off the top of my head. Been trying not to look at it this time because September 20th, 2024.
September 20th.
Yes.
So, 58 days. By the time this comes out, it'll be even more. So, what was going on September 19th of 2024?
I really had hit my low. I came home. My best friend had moved in with me. Um, she knew right away that I was loaded. Um, she'd known that I'd been relapsing, and basically, she called me out on my shit. She's like, I love you, and I have years of recovery behind me, um, and I'm not going to leave you, but if you continue to use, I can't be around you. Um, and I remember just feeling so broken. Like, this is my best friend. This is pretty much the only person I have in my life that is physically with me, um, that actually gives a damn, and I don't want to lose her.
That's the kind of thing that happened with my wife and I after my relapse last year. I relapsed after my dad passed away last summer, and it wasn't like I went hard. I was doing, I was smoking weed all day every day, and I was abusing prescription benzos. I was abusing Ativan, and then I abused Valium, and they were both prescribed to me, but I was abusing them.
Yeah.
And it took my wife to say, you're not sober anymore. And it was like, oh shit, I'm not sober. I had to start over this time. And my wife's my best friend. So, and the only person that's physically close to me, my whole family is 2.5 hours away. So, it's like, I don't want to lose her or that. I always do that. I don't want to lose them. Um, so, it's just that realization of settling in. I understand that completely because I've had that discussion and it broke me.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Hazel?
Originally, or right now I'm in Omaha. Originally from Florida.
Okay. Did you bounce around a lot?
I did not. I grew up. My first 18 years of my life I spent in Florida. Went to college. Went back to Florida. Um, and then I was in Texas for 6 years, and I'm a survivor of sex trafficking. And they moved me to Omaha, Nebraska. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into that. Well, let's not get into that right away. I want to talk about growing up first. Grew up in Florida. Parents stay together.
My dad left when I was 3. Um, so I mainly grew up with my mom and my grandparents.
Okay. Any siblings?
I did not have any siblings that I knew of. I had a sister who was put up for adoption before I was born that I didn't meet until I was 16. So,
So yeah, you were raised as an only child then.
yep.
And you lived with your mom and grandparents when you were 3 years old when your dad left.
Yes.
All right. What did you discover first, drugs or alcohol?
Honestly, my first drug of choice wasn't drugs or alcohol, it was self harm.
Okay, so you were a cutter,
Yep.
and that was before you were drinking or using.
Yep.
How old were you when you started cutting?
I was 10.
did you see it on TV or something and think you want to try that, or did somebody introduce
There
you to
was a
it? Because
there was a girl that I was in school with that had talked about it, and I don't even remember really what happened the first few times that I did it. Um, but I knew instantly, like, it gave me that feeling that I didn't have to feel how I was feeling. It took away that pain for me, um, of like everything, and I could finally, it was like I could finally breathe.
and that turned into an addiction.
It absolutely did. I think my grandparents sat down with me at one point because my school counselor found out from one of my friends in school that it was going on, and they thought, I remember like the conversation just being like, well, this is just a phase, you'll get over it. And sorry, my dog. um it wasn't just a phase, like it it bled into my adult years.
Were
um
you cutting your thigh or your arm?
all over, anywhere that I could do it.
So were you a long sleeve in the summer kind of girl?
Yep, in Florida.
I was gonna say in Florida, yeah.
Yep.
And what were you using, a razor?
Yep.
I know people that were cutters, so I'm kind of knowledgeable on the mindset and what you're doing and how it helps you to escape, and it gives you the same kind of relief that drinking would give you or drugs would give you.
Absolutely.
And I'm not telling people out there go cut. I'm not saying that you should go cut yourself. In fact, we're saying the opposite, that
Yeah.
it's a temporary fix for a permanent problem.
Yep. And I think, especially as like a teenager, as an adult, like I learned more, but as a teenager, I think I thought that I wasn't hurting anyone when I was hurting everyone around me. Just like drugs and alcohol have hurt everyone around me. It didn't seem as apparent, with the self-harm, and more specifically, like as an adult, I realized like how much it hurt other people too. And it's a vicious cycle, just like drugs. I have to hide it, I have to lie about it, I have to you know hide the consequences.
Did you end up with any scars from it?
I have scars all over me. And I just like, being in recovery, like I there was there was shame in it, because I have scars all over. Like, I don't want to wear long sleeves. I've gotten accustomed to, like, I don't care what anyone thinks. It's been years since I've actually done it. So, um, if anything, just like recovering out loud, um, it's helped me to have conversations with people I think I wouldn't normally have if don't have the scars.
Like
So
this. Like this is a conversation.
yeah,
And I saw you have at least a few tattoos.
I do.
Because
I do.
that's an addiction too. Because
Oh yeah,
I totally get it. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, I had one when I got into recovery 6.5 years ago, and I somebody asked me to count the other week, and I had 55 small tattoos on my arms.
That's amazing.
So my arms are covered in random shit. I don't have like a sleeve. I consider my sleeve to be nostalgic. It's all random shit. Like, I even have that S that everybody used to write on school. I have that
Yeah,
on. Can I show it? Yeah, I can kind of. You can
yeah,
kind of see it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's. Have you ever seen Christmas Story?
Yeah,
That's the leg lamp.
yeah, yeah.
So I have a bunch of random shit from TV shows and movies and music, all stuff that, like, I have progress, not perfection on my arm. And my show was progress, not perfection. It was like my mantra in early recovery. Um, So you were cutting through your teenage years. When did you discover drugs or alcohol?
My teenage years, actually, I would say that I discovered alcohol first.
Same.
My my mom told me from a really young age that I had an allergy to alcohol, and I didn't know what she meant by that until I was an adult. Again, same thing. Um, and then I started, experimenting with other things with, kids at school, and just like self-harming. It took away that anxiety that I had, that it helped me to breathe. Like I could function.
Yeah. And alcohol is like that warm blanket.
Yep.
What were you experimenting with kids at school? Like what kind of drugs? Was it weed and
No, I really didn't do weed. I did weed a couple of times, and it honestly like made me feel like I like wet my pants. I remember at one day at school I had done it with this girl before we went in, and I asked her if like I'd peed my pants, and I just realized that was not a drug for me because I didn't. It either A, knocked me on my face, or B, made me think all kinds of things that
yeah.
weren't real. And so no, I got in this crowd where we were doing pills. My mom was on painkillers, and so I'd take her painkillers and bring them to school. And yeah,
You remember what kind of painkillers?
she was on Norco, and then at one point it was just Tylenol with codeine in it, just Percocets.
So nothing strong then.
No, not really.
So what happened when you went to college? You sounds like you left the state when you went to college.
Yeah, when I was 18, so my senior year in high school, well, let me back up. So I was a cutter. I was using drugs. There was a lot of people who didn't think I'd make it. I'd live to see my 18th birthday. So my senior year, I just decided like I have to get out of the state. Like I have to move. I have to get away from my mother. Um, and my plan was to go into the military, but with my self-harming history and mental health, like I couldn't
Past the psych eval.
yeah, I couldn't pass that. So I'd ask my basketball coach, I was like, what the fuck do I do? What this was my plan. Like this was my plan to get out. This is my plan. And he's like, I can get you into a couple colleges. Just apply. And I got into one college. It was a Christian college, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna go start my life over. And moved to Missouri. Never had flown. Never had really, except for like a weekend, been out of the state. So yeah,
Yeah, that's a big jump going from Florida to Missouri.
yes, it was.
And it was a Christian college, but it sounds like I feel like because I went to a Catholic college, a Catholic high school for 1 year, and the drugs were just as bad in the Catholic high school as they were the public high school. What
You
was
know,
that like with a Christian college?
I when
Now
I
you're
moved
away
to
from all the
when I
painkillers.
moved to when I moved to college, I didn't use drugs. I stopped cutting. Um, I really like turned my life around, I feel like. Um, but it was all such a facade, I think. I was trying to fit in because, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian, and I'm at this Christian college. Nobody can know. So, like within my first year, they had like a coin saying, of course, that was like ring by spring or it's free. And so everybody got married. And so I was like, well, I need to get married. Um, I made it, I got married. This was like my sophomore year in college. And I decided to accelerate my program. And then my grandmother died. Um, when my grandmother died, my world ended. Um, my grandmother was my everything. And I was just so devastated. I still not sure how I graduated college. Within that year, within like that year, I finished all my credits that I needed for my degree, and um, but during that time after my grandmother passed, um, I started taking pills again. I started self harming again. Um, I used in a different manner because I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be with my grandmother. Um, and then I found Narcotics Anonymous. And I got clean. I graduated college and I moved back to Florida.
Florida's got a big NA program. Would you go back to Florida with your husband?
No, in in that time frame of I got clean. I started going NA meetings. He didn't like the fact that I was going to NA, but liked the fact that I was clean and like not trying to actively like kill myself. Um, and I think I started realizing in an A that I couldn't lie anymore about the fact that I'm gay, and I left him. I think I was like 90 days clean. I left him. So when I moved back to Florida, I moved in with my grandfather.
Was your mom still living there too, or she remarried?
No, my granddad had bought a property. It literally shared the same backyard. So my mom lived next door.
Oh, okay. And you decided to live with him instead of your mom?
Well, the original plan was to live with my mom. My mom um, is bipolar and had a lot of issues, and so within just a couple of days of me moving back there, I ended up at my granddad's. I was like, I can't handle this. Can't handle you not being on your meds, and so I I moved in with my granddad.
I'm bipolar too, but I take my meds. Every Saturday night, my wife will get the med boxes out. My wife has MS, so and I'm bipolar, I have OCD, and I have what they call extreme insomnia. And there was one point a few years ago before I was medicated for the insomnia. It was April, and I slept a total of 32 hours that month,
Wow.
like the entire month. And this is unmedicated. This is not on drugs. This is me sober using
Yeah.
weed I was using weed as a way to fall asleep, and it stopped working. Um, Tried melatonin, tried all the what I mean, Tylenol PM and shit,
Yeah.
and nothing. I wasn't. They gave me I hated trazodone because of the wake up and you feel hungover, and then they gave me Seroquel, which put me in the hospital. They gave me Ambien that didn't work, and they finally found a med that worked, and so I'm on medicine for that. But and every Saturday night, my wife would get the med boxes out and do the med boxes for the week. So I wake up and I have high blood pressure. I'm a bigger guy, so I have high blood pressure. So I'm on two different medicines for my blood pressure. So I understand what you mean when you say she was unmedicated, because it's such a dangerous thing to decide to not take my meds.
Yeah. I'm on medication. I'm on medication as well. I also have OCD. I have depression pretty bad, anxiety.
Yeah,
I'm on
I skipped
medication.
those. I skipped those. I'm on Buspar for my. I used to take Ativan, and then I abused it, and then they gave me Valium, and then I abused it. So I stopped taking benzos in April when I quit weed. I quit weed and benzos April 1st.
That's awesome.
So I am free of all that for over 7 months now. But they put me on Buspar, which helps lessen anxiety throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like clonidine. It's like a
Yep.
cousin to clonidine.
Yep.
So
That's
you're
I'm on clonidine. I actually also suffer from severe insomnia. Part of it's related to like my complex PTSD, but I have to take 3 different meds um, just to help me
what do you take?
to 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So
Yeah,
I take Seroquel, Ambien, what is it called?
olanzapine.
Prazosin for my nightmares, and then I take the other meds for like I take gabapentin
Yeah,
because the
I love
Seroquel causes restless leg syndrome.
legs. Yep.
So I take that.
Yeah, I take 1,800 milligrams of gabapentin every night.
My med set, I have two med sets for the week. One that has like the pull apart meds for by noon and my 5:30 meds, because I have to take those to work with me. And then my other med set stays here. That's my morning and night med. So I get the whole med set thing. I have to do it
Yeah.
every week too. And I think my day's Saturday as well. So that's fun. That's funny.
Yep, every Saturday night gets it ready for Sunday.
Yep.
And it's gabapentin. I can't like I can't tell people enough how gabapentin's been helpful.
Yep.
There's a chance to abuse it, unfortunately. But like I'm a bigger guy, so like the 300 milligrams wasn't doing shit for me. And I have horrible restless legs, and they put me on 3 600s a night, and that helps put me to sleep too. I take olanzapine for my some insomnia. Seroquel put me in the hospital. I took
See, and
it.
I understood the trazodone thing because not only does it make me freaking groggy, it makes me hallucinate.
Did it?
Yes,
I took it twice in my life, and I hated it both
it's
times.
awful.
And the Seroquel, I took it, and I was laying every night. I watched Bob's Burgers to fall asleep. My wife does too, obviously, because we share, a room. We both watch Bob's Burgers to fall asleep. Our son's 10; he watches Bob's Burgers to fall asleep.
That's funny.
It's like a staple in our apartment. And fucking, I take the Seroquel and I lay down in bed and I'm like shutting my eyes, hoping that's gonna work. And I didn't want to get the Seroquel munchies, so like I was like laying in bed and just like hoping I fell asleep. And all of a sudden, my heart rate was going up, and I was like, "What the hell?" So we get the cuff out because I have high blood pressure, so I have to check it all the time. But it does your heart rate too, and it was at 180 beats per minute.
Jesus.
So I Google Seroquel and heart rate spike, and literally it said, "Get to the emergency room right now." I was like, "Fuck!" So they gave me a bunch. They gave me like an Ativan drip, and they wouldn't let me go home until it was under 120 beats per minute. So I was there until like 4 a.m. until my heart rate came down. So I dumped that.
I have felt the heart rate thing when it starts kicking in, but I think I'm on enough clonidine and prazosin that it levels it out. But the heart
um,
rate thing, it does spike it. I don't know what in it makes it do that, but yeah, that sucks.
yep, it does. And the restless legs, they're hard. I get horrible restless legs.
Yes.
So GABA does great work with the restless legs, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I have a friend who was getting off alcohol, and before I started helping her, she was taking like 15 airplane bottles a day of Fireball, and now she's down to 2 a day, and she's um, been replacing doing a shot with taking a gabapentin. It's like every time you want to do a shot, like you're about to do a shot, take a gabapentin. And now she's down to like 3 gabapentin a day and 2 fireballs a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, soon she's gonna be down to no fireballs in a day. So I'm keeping her accountable. Every time she does a shot, she sends me a Snapchat of the bottle being empty, so I know that she took one. And I have a few friends that just hit me up recently. They're like, "Okay, I'm ready to get clean. What do I do?" And walked them through the process of what they need to do to get clean.
Right.
Um, so you go back to we went off topic a bit,
Okay.
talking about meds. It happens to the best of us, so I can rein us back in. You were talking about moving back to Florida. You can't live with your mom. She's unmedicated. And then we talked about medications. You move with your grandfather. You're 90 days clean. You're going to NA. How does you transfer over to NA in Florida?
Well, when I was in NA in Missouri, they told me make a meeting as soon as you get there, make it the same day, and I did. I got involved in NA. I stayed in NA for the next few years. I built a life for myself. I came out. Um, the first person besides my sponsor, first person I came out to was my granddad, and he had a gay son. My uncle was gay. And so, like, when I came out to my granddad, he's like, "Well, we have something else in common. We both like women." Um, I built a life for myself. I got an amazing job. Um, working at a treatment center. I did H&I, so I brought meetings into the treatment center there. I got a sponsor. I was working steps. I was involved in service work. And I had a life for myself. Built an incredible, incredible life. And I had started volunteering with a organization called Crisis Text Line, and after volunteering with them so long, they offered me a position as a shift supervisor, and it was perfect because my end goal was I wanted to travel. And this position offered me the ability to do all my work from home pre-COVID. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to be doing. Got the job. And, my senior year of high school, I went to a small Christian school because my anxiety was so bad back in college or high school. And so I went to this conference as a senior called CIY Move. And I when I was in college, I traveled on the summers to CIY to basically just get people to know what our college is. But this opportunity came up to me as speaking. And it was in Dallas. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I talked to my sponsor about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go speak at this conference this weekend. It's going to be amazing. And that's not what happened, but I don't want to get off track too much. But, I had a little over 3 years clean right before I went to Dallas.
Did you move to Dallas?
I did not. I went to Dallas to speak at this conference. You can't fly with liquids. So I had rented a car and had stopped at a Target to get some hygiene items. And I did not make it to the conference.
What happened?
I had gotten approached by 2 women in Target. The only person that, besides my family and my sponsor, people in my recovery community that knew I was going to Texas was my biological father. And I had reached out to my biological father. I started talking to him when I was 13 to kind of just meet him. And he lived in Abilene, Texas, which was 2.5 hours away. There's a reason I'm sharing that, because my dad was the reason, I know now was the reason I was approached by these 2 women. these two women had approached me to go to a college-age Bible study. Gave me their information, told me where it was, and in the moment I was like, oh my gosh, this is, such a God thing. Like, this is gonna get me out of my comfort zone. Like, I'm gonna go to this. Like, I don't have to be to the college until tomorrow. So I went to this Bible study, and I immediately thought something was off. Like, these women were not, like, they were dressed, they were not modestly dressed. And I thought, this feels weird. And I remember getting a drink. And within, like, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, everything started to just kind of go black. And I really don't remember a lot for the next few days. But I was taken from Dallas to Abilene. And I was drugged and forced to sleep with men for the next 6 years.
For 6 years?
Yes.
And you were drugged the entire time?
There was a point where I eventually made the choice to use. I have never used IV drugs, but having that feeling, I think, in being an addict, I did eventually make the decision to use.
Did anyone know you were missing?
Everyone thought that I was with my dad. My family had no idea. I didn't know the stories that were told by my dad until Homeland Security was involved, because I wasn't allowed to contact my family members the first few years. I was eventually trusted with the phone. I was eventually trusted with getting an ID so I could drive.
Did they make threats to keep you there?
There were threats against my family, my mother, my grandparents, my granddad, and even my dad. And I was so, I don't know if it was because I was so strung out on drugs. I was so strung out in the lifestyle, and I didn't think that there was a way to get out. The people that, not just my pimp, but the people that I saw coming in and out were not people that I would ever want to fuck with. I knew that if I tried to leave, that they would kill me. And I was so afraid of dying that I just didn't even attempt to try. I'd watch girls get killed for way less.
Like, you've seen it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And you think they did it in front of you to scare you?
Yeah.
Was your dad involved?
Yes.
How did he fit into this equation?
Um,
Sorry that it's making you emotional.
no. I actually don't usually get emotional about this. I don't know why I am now. My dad was strung out on drugs too. And so I do not know how he got involved with these people, honestly.
Was it as simple he owed them money, so he traded?
I have
No
no
idea.
idea.
Okay.
Absolutely none. Um, I think my dad was so strung out on drugs that he was willing to do whatever he could to stay high.
That's a lot for 6 years. And not seeing your grandfather that you loved,
Yep.
and working a program all thrown away. And so how does it all come crumbling down, like in a good sense, that you were like, use the word rescued?
Yeah.
Got me
Um,
crying a little bit too.
yeah. Um, I started watching girls ODing way more. Um, and there was talk that there was fentanyl in our heroin. And there was a girl that I'd gotten really close to. Um, her name was Roxy. Um, and I remember talking to her one night, and I was like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die like this. But I don't know what the fuck to do. And I remember telling me, if there is a God, you are one of the girls that can get out and really build a life for yourself. And I didn't know what that looked like. At that point, I was just so, my thinking was so fucked up from everything I had been that had been ingrained in me. Like, I can't leave, can't talk, I can't tell anyone. If I tell someone, I'm going to end up dead.
Were you in
Um,
a house?
so we were in and out of hotels.
Okay.
Yeah. Um,
And you said they moved you up to Oklahoma?
no, they moved me to Omaha, Nebraska.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Omaha.
Yeah. So I had I had gotten this information about this Christian treatment center. And I had done some research because I had a phone at this point. And so I'd been looking at this agency, and they're like, we need all this information. And like, I would talk to them when I wasn't around anyone. And I worked for, let's see, January, February, March, April, almost 4 months, talking with these people, jumping through all these hoops that they wanted me to jump through that I could barely like keep up with. Because I'm also like having to keep all of this a secret from everyone. And they basically told me, they're like, well, you have to be out of sex trafficking for 6 months, and we need you to do counseling for 6 months before we can accept you. And I was like, well, I could do that. Like, I wouldn't be contacting you. So they sent me a list of resources, and I remember thinking, well, I'm going to contact a couple of these agencies. And I made one of two notes to my dad. I wrote 2 letters. One was that I'd killed myself, and the other one was that I've left, and don't try to find me. So I contacted a couple of the agencies that emailed one, and they emailed me back and they said, can you do a Zoom call? And I happened to be at my dad's. A couple of the girls were really sick with COVID, and so I was at my dad's. My pimp was out of town. Like, it was like everything just fell into place where I had this time to be able to be on the Zoom call with these people. My dad and my stepmother were downstairs. And this agency from Omaha said, if you can leave, just leave. And I remember waiting till the next morning, and waiting till I knew they were asleep, and I left the house. And I knew they had cameras, but I knew they wouldn't see it until they woke up. And I called them again, and they said, we've already contacted an agency there in Abilene. The lady will be there. Like I walked up to this gas station. I had a backpack and a purse. This woman was like, "What do you need?" Mind you, it's April. I'm in Texas. It's fucking hot. I think it was like 96 degrees that day. And I was looking at the temperature in Omaha, and it was like 32 degrees. And she's like, "Do you need anything?" I was like, "I need a jacket. I need a jacket." And so this woman took me up to her office there in Abilene, got me a jacket. She's like, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "Well, I haven't eaten in 3 days. Yeah, I'm hungry." Um, she took me to eat, and they had booked a flight in this time frame. And next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Omaha with a backpack and a purse.
Whatever happened to the pimp?
So I got moved here. I did not stay at the agency that I had contacted. I was there maybe a week. It was a Christian place, and it felt just as controlled as where I was. Um, I couldn't leave. I couldn't, do anything without someone being with me. And I think for some people that are coming out of trafficking, like that's a good place for them. But I needed a little bit more freedom. I actually ended up going to a homeless shelter here in Omaha. Um, and the agency that I had no intentions of pressing charges. My intentions were, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to start a life, and nobody's going to know where I'm at. That was my plan. The agency the lady that picked me up from in Abilene and helped me get on my plane, her and I had been talking. So maybe a couple weeks I'd been here, and she's like, "There's a girl that's missing." And Homeland Security would really like to talk to you. And at the time, like, I thought, I'm just going to be giving them information. I'm not going to be telling them anything about myself. It'll be fine. It ended up turning into, hours on Zoom with Homeland Security, not interrogating me, but interrogating the situation.
Yeah.
And telling them basically everything that I could remember for the last 6 years. The case is still 2 years later, still hasn't completely played out. There have been a few people that have been arrested, but they're really starting with the small guys and working their way up. I don't completely know all of the ins and outs of all of that. When I moved here, I went from that homeless shelter to an Oxford, and from the Oxford to moving in with my best friend, changing my name, legally changing my name, with the help of Homeland Security.
So you picked the name Hazel?
Mm-hmm, I sure did. Yeah. Um,
Did you change your last name too?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't need to know it.
Oh no, you have me on Facebook. It's okay.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
we don't need to say it.
I changed my full name, including my middle name. I had to, get a new social, apply for a new birth certificate, all the things. And it was really hard in the beginning, I started going to online meetings. I went to some in-persons, but I started with this recovery and mental health meeting, and then started going to NA in-person meetings. I was going to these meetings called CMA, which is Crystal Meth Anonymous.
No, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So went there. Then I started going to NA, got an NA sponsor again. But yeah, I moved here, started out with nothing, started going back to school.
Didn't even have a name.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I started going back to school. I'm now in my third year of classes. Um, I've had I have an incredible job. I actually worked my first 2 years in mental health, and made kind of like a job change because mental health was affecting me mentally as well as physically. So I now work at a food pantry and I love everything about it, for the most part. Um,
Yeah, we had
you
to
know,
utilize food pantries for a while before. Um, my wife, I think I mentioned my wife has MS, so they're on a bunch of different medications for MS. And before we got their disability, we had to use the food pantry a lot, just because it was hard on just my income. You know, we have a 10-year-old and, you know, shit gets expensive, especially lately. And um, then we got her. There, I keep doing that. It is recently they them, so I'm working on getting the pronouns right. It's an ongoing process for me. But their Social Security came through, and now we get Meals America once a week.
oh, it's
Like
awesome.
every Thursday, we get Meals America, and that helps a bunch of frozen dinners and shit like that. Because I work 7 to 6:30. I'm off Wednesdays and I'm off on weekends, but on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you know, I work long days, and I used to work 7 to 5:30. But then after this relapse I had, I took a month off work for FMLA and went back into daily meetings and focused on my sobriety for the first 30 days. And when I came back, I said to my manager, is there any way that I can work an hour longer and be able to attend my noon meetings every day? And she said yes. So I work 7 to 6:30. I get an hour and a half long lunch to attend my NA meeting that I do. I do NA through Zoom because NA is kind of non-existent where I live. So I do NA on Zoom every day at noon. I have a sponsor who has 30 years. He's based out of Providence, Rhode Island, where this meeting's based out of. And I do Gamblers Anonymous on the weekends because I have a gambling problem. And you know, it's funny. I do that on the weekends. I found Zoom meetings based out of Las Vegas because I figured if anyone can quit gambling, it's people in Las Vegas. So I do these Zoom meetings, and you know, I introduce myself as JD. I'm a compulsive gambler, and I'm an addict, and I'm an alcoholic. I mention all three. Oh, what's their name?
His name is Snickers.
Snickers. That's so funny because my friend from work, her cat is named Snickers.
Aw.
That's funny. Yeah, I noticed your Facebook picture had a picture of you and him together.
Yeah, he's my baby.
Now, you got back into NA, but did you have a relapse?
Yeah, so,
Because if you're only 58 days clean again, and
yeah,
that all that abduction stuff happened, you're 2 years post all that, right?
yeah, yeah. So like I said, I had moved in with my best friend, and then I met a woman, um, that I was madly in love with, and I thought really loved me. Um, and we moved really quick. Still clean, um, still all the things, and I decided to move in with this woman. She had a daughter who was 2 years old from her previous wife. They did IVF, in the whatever that process is. Of
IVF.
well, the she had to they like picked the sperm for the baby and all that. So she was like two. Well, she was two, um, and I started thinking that I was different and that I could have a drink every once in a while. And that's when my relapse started. Um, and really it was just literally a drink or half a drink, not even a whole drink the first time, second time, third time, fourth time, We get married. 6 months of meeting one another, we get married. And she starts putting her hands on me. That went on for like 3 months until I finally had enough. I asked her to leave because in that 3 months, like, we had tried counseling, we had tried everything to try and work things out, get her to change. She stopped drinking. She would get shit-faced, and it was bad. It was bad. And honestly, like, I was in denial. I really thought she loves me. It's the alcohol.
And this is your first real relationship, if I'm not mistaken, with a woman.
Yeah.
Because you came out and then you were abducted.
Yep.
And, it's not like they were sex trafficking you with other women. It were need to be with men.
Yeah.
So, for your entire, 20s, you were in abduction and being held captive. Which, by the way, the name of this episode is going to be the one where Hazel was abducted for 8 years. Because 8 years, right?
6 years.
6 years. It's a long ass time. So this is your first real relationship with a woman, and give over that kind of trust, and to be fucked over like that so quickly. And all of a sudden now you're back to drinking. Do you start using again too?
No. I had asked my wife to leave. And I now have this house that is, the rent was, $1,200, which was great for a 3-bedroom. And then the best friend that I had moved in with now needed a place. And so she moved in with me. Her boyfriend and her kids. And, she's got 9 years clean. And I got the job where I work now, because at the time, December, basically, when we got married, through March of this year, I was on medical leave because I had a restraint with a kid because I worked in mental health, where we were severely understaffed, and I tore a muscle in my L4 and L5. So I was on medical leave. And when I asked my wife to leave, I started looking for a job in a different field, because I needed something that wasn't going to damage my body. So I'd gotten the job that I have now. Best friend moves in with me. I'm still thinking, maybe I can work on this relationship. Maybe my wife can get help and things are going to be okay. Until she walks through my door and decides to put her hands on me again after I've asked her to leave. She no longer lives there. The locks have been changed. So I file a restraining order. I'm broken. I'm completely broken. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've got this restraining order out on this person that I thought I loved, that I thought loved me. I get this restraining order, and she walks through the restraining order and puts her hands on me again. Police are again called. They do a whole crime scene investigation at my house. And suddenly that one drink turned into a bottle. And that bottle turned into another bottle and another bottle. And my best friend and I had conversations. I'm going to meetings online. I'm going to NA meetings. I'm going to my mental health and recovery meeting. And I'm lying to everyone except my best friend. My best friend knows. She has literally, when I've been so fucked up, put me in the shower and got me dressed, because that's how fucked up I was. I couldn't even, and she's telling me, Hazel, you're an addict. You can't drink. And it was so quick that I went to work and I stopped at a gas station to pick up a vape. And I saw this guy standing outside, and I knew that he had something. And I asked him if I could cop off of him. And he said, yeah, what do you want? I got in his vehicle, drove to where he was, with him. Like, I had just done this. Like, I had just gotten in a random car and went with this guy to who knows where he was taking me. And it literally went from 0 to 60 in like 20 seconds. Like, I was back with a needle in my arm. And that went on for a couple weeks before that day where my best friend was.
Where we started.
Yeah.
We've come full circle now.
Yeah.
Why do you think this last 58 days is different than before?
This time around in recovery?
Yeah.
I decided I needed to make an in-person meeting. That's what has changed for me. My best friend always told me I have a choice. I can do whatever I want. I'm a grown woman. I get to make choices today. I don't have anyone telling me what I can and can't do. She's always told me that. And I told her, I was like, I need to go to an NA meeting. And she took me. We both went together. And she took me to my second one. And I still do my Zoom meetings. I still do my NA. I still do my mental health and recovery Zoom meeting that I do. But every Friday and Saturday night, I go to my in-person. I've started calling people. I go out to dinner on Friday nights. Saturdays, either we go out to dinner or there's food at the meeting. And
if you like Zoom meetings so much, you should check out Recovery Dharma.
I've heard of it. I have a good friend who goes to my mental health and recovery meeting that does those meetings.
That's what you reminded me of when you said mental health. My wife does Recovery Dharma. I do NA and they do Recovery Dharma. And, they go to like 2 meetings a day, 4.5 years into being sober. And they do, 2 meetings a day. Today, they're going to do 9, 1, and 4. And sometimes 2 to 3 meetings in a day, depending on if it's a weekend and they have time. But they love it.
Our mental health and recovery meeting is for people who are in recovery who have mental health issues. And it's called Spicy Serotonin Crew. And everyone that's in there is in some form of recovery. I helped name it. But you were talking about tattoos. I'm not going to be able to show it, am I? And I have a serotonin molecule on my arm.
That's awesome.
But our meeting, we all of us have different, and some of us have same diagnoses, whether it's OCD or schizophrenia.
Yes.
We all have something when we're in there. And it's different than going to an NA meeting because I can be honest about medications. I can be honest about, my intrusive thoughts to need to have checklists and do the things that I do to maintain my mental health. But yeah. So really this time around recovery has been about, like I told you, when I moved here, I had nothing. I have my best friend, but I don't have family. My grandfather has since passed, You
didn't even have a name.
Yeah.
You're literally starting from scratch.
Yep. And so, I knew this time in recovery, like I had to get serious and I needed to build relationships here. I have amazing friends on Zoom, amazing friends that I could call at any hour of the night and know that they would fucking answer, but I can't go to coffee with them. I can't, and so I knew I needed that person to person contact. You know, my Zoom friends, they all came, well, a couple of them came to Omaha. We stayed in a fucking Airbnb, went to the Omaha Zoo, you know, spent some amazing time together, but they can't do that all the time,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
feel the same way with my first sponsor. She's in LA, and we talked the other day. She's a muralist, and she's done a bunch of paintings for us, and she does these cross country road trips where she paints because she's such like a big name. Muckrock is her name, and she's huge in this country when it comes to graffiti art. And she does these tours where she travels the country and does graffiti. And I happen to live in between Ohio and New York City, the main highway in between there. And she does a lot of New York City stuff. That's where she was born and raised. So she always stops off the highway and hangs out here for a few days. And I get her a bunch of commission work around here. Like I'll post it in our town's group on Facebook. Like, hey, Muckrock's coming to town, and post a bunch of her art. And she'll usually hook me up with some commission. But like, I know what you mean. I can call her. She's 3 hours behind time wise. I could text her at any time and she'll answer. But like, it's nothing like when she's in town and we can like meet up and go to a meeting together. And she does AA. She was my AA sponsor. So, but she still has remained a close friend. There's a few years ago I hurt my tailbone, and they gave me 6 perk 5s, Oxy 5s. And Oxy 30 was my drug of choice. And so my wife, it was administering my pills for me, and every time they gave me a pill, they would text Jules and be with a pill emoji, just saying that like that meant that I was taking a pill. And we kind of watched my progress with that, and I ended up dumping the last two. I only took 4 of them, and then I was feeling a bit better, so we disposed of the last two, and I didn't even take all 5, or all 6 rather.
Yeah.
So, that was for me progress, that I never thought I'd be able to take this, medicinally, and it actually work out without me abusing. I could have easily banged up all 6 and did a huge line, a huge line. You know what I mean? But I didn't do that. I didn't want to do that shit. I was, 6.5 years away from the pills, the opiates at least, and I don't want to go back to that life.
Right.
So I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing, Hazel. It was great, meeting you and talking to you and hearing your story. It's not great, your story, but you got me all emotional, and my eyes are probably all red now. It's not hard. It's not easy to get through what you've been through. And you know how earlier, before I hit record, I said, say whatever you want. I've heard it all. Coincidentally, last night I interviewed a girl that was abducted and was sex trafficked for 8 months.
Wow.
So but that was by a specific person that she went to high school with, and he had a vendetta against her. So I've heard it for 8 months, but not 6 fucking years. She didn't have to change her name. You know what I mean? That guy's in prison for life now. She didn't have to change her name and start all over again like you did. So, hats off to you for rebuilding your life and doing things differently this time around than you had before, because the old ways weren't working. You know what I mean? And you needed a change in scenery, and change in name, change in life. And I think you're doing an amazing job right now.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you. Thank you so much again, Hazel. Have a great day.
You too.